All the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today I've got a new tutorial where we're going to talk about tape. We're going to talk about tape saturation, tape emulation, specifically using the vintage tape module in Ozone 8 Advanced. This is probably my favorite tape emulation. It's based on a Studer A810, which is a famous mastering tape machine, dual tape deck. But anyways, we're going to talk about the terminology here. So if you're using Ozone 8 or not, you're going to see these things. And I want to give you a basic understanding of what these things are doing and how you can use it to shape your sound in a really powerful way, in a subtle way, but powerful way, using this in the mastering process. So let me go ahead and play back this track that I just released. It's called Lately. And this is the exact mastering chain. I used the vintage tape module as well. And we're going to talk about specifically what's going on here.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears. Overthrow darkness, bloody tears. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth. Oh no, I stay buried in your love most lately.
All right, so let's go ahead and break down each of the controls here in the vintage tape module. Again, these are things you're going to see across the board in all kinds of tape emulation. So first, let's talk about the speed. This is, physically speaking, this is just how fast the tape machine would be running. Now, how it actually affects the sound is when we have a lower speed, it's going to change the frequency curve or the frequency response at different input levels. So meaning it's going to distort higher frequencies at a lower input level for this lower speed. Now, again, that might sound confusing to some of you, but let's just listen to what it does. You're going to want to have some good headphones or be listening on some monitors because this is subtle, but it is definitely a noticeable effect.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears. Overthrow darkness, bloody tears. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth. Oh no, I stay buried in your love most lately.
So you could hear as I went from 30 to 15 to 7.5 IPS, we got a very different frequency response. So at 30, we had more high end. You could hear a little bit more saturation happening in the high end. And then as we went to 15 and then 7.5, we got a little bit darker, warmer sound, more distortion, and it just gives you a different tone. And this is going to be something that, again, is very subtle, but it definitely makes a difference once you get to this stage. So let's move on. The input drive, exactly what you think. Is just the level that you're feeding the tape machine. I generally will leave this. This can affect how the saturation and how much distortion you're getting out of this. I would generally use this control more when I'm mixing. So if I use this on, like a vocal chain or something where I wanted to get more of that distortion or some more harmonics, I might drive it up here on the input drive. All right, so moving along here to the bias control. We're just going to talk about what bias does in terms of sound because I don't want to get into like the AC, electrical things, the actual physical things of a tape machine that go on here because I think it'll just confuse you. It's really easy to just listen to what bias is doing and understand it better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here. Let's just move this back to 0. And you're going to notice that when we have a lower bias, we actually get more saturation and distortion happening in the high frequencies. We get a brighter sound versus when we go to a higher bias or we raise the bias, we're going to get less dynamic range and it's going to be more of a low, again, dark sound, a little bit more smeared, if you will. So let's just start at 0.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears. Overthrow darkness, bloody tears. Pour my soul.
So we get a little bit more prominent low end, a little bit more distortion there. We roll off some high end. Now let's go the other way.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears. Overthrow darkness, bloody tears. Pour my soul out into.
A lot brighter sound, a lot more saturation happening in the high end. So then let's go over here. I'm just going to move this bias back. For the harmonics control, we're adding even harmonics to the sound. So let's just hear what it does here.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears, overthrow darkness. You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears, overthrow darkness, bloody tears.
So again, a very subtle effect, but it's just adding some more harmonics to the distortion that's happening. Low emphasis and high emphasis. This is controlling the resonant peak of the reproduced tape head. So you don't have to understand what that is. I don't expect you to. For those of you who have never used a tape machine, I don't use tape machines either. Anyways, getting to how it affects the sound. Low emphasis, it's just going to increase that resonant peak. So the saturation and distortion, the low end that is being emphasized with the tape, again, it's just going to give us more of that. So let's just adjust that.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears, overthrow darkness, bloody tears.
And then the high emphasis.
You might be too. I hope you see there's something greater than me and you. Together we can find a light, promote it, let it shine bright. Take over the doubts, never fall victim to fears, overthrow darkness, bloody tears. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you. Had to find out that some people never want the truth. Oh no, I stay buried.
So if you listen closely to what those are doing, they are giving us a very focused, fine-tuned, subtle effect there. But it's really powerful because, you know, if we were doing this with an EQ, we're going to have these much more broad strokes. And this is doing something that, again, is very subtle. Mastering, a lot of it we talk about on the channel, you know, we've got 95% that we're trying to achieve the sound in mixing. Mastering is just this final little sprinkle of magic. And vintage tape and tape machines, that's exactly what they're for, is to give you a little bit of that analog saturation, that warmth. Maybe you want to kind of smear or smoothen out some of the high end, make it a little bit less digital. That's really what I use it for. With this, I got a little bit of the vintage brightness, but I also used, you know, some of the bias to where we're getting slightly less dynamics, but it's smoothing out some of the high frequencies. You know, my S's tend to be a little bit sharp. So controlling the bias affected that in a positive way. And the vintage tape just gave this thing a overall feel that I was looking for. And I also used the 15 speed in case you're curious. All right, y'all. So that's just a quick run through of all the controls and how you can use them in the vintage tape module for Ozone 8 Advanced. But again, you're going to see these controls on pretty much all tape emulation plugins. So now you're going to have an understanding of what these mean and, more importantly, what they're doing to your sound so you can use them to your advantage and get the best results out of your masters. So if you have any questions about using tape saturation, tape emulation plugins, or the vintage tape specifically in Ozone 8 Advanced, feel free to leave a comment below. If you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing. And we'll talk to you soon.
I equate to nothing, but we all know you're up to something, cause my soul stays heavy like the D-line. Place my worth up above, never anchored to your love or acceptance, even when I get quite reckless. I made it through the darkness, thank heavens. Pour my soul out into every word I share with you.